well, how in the world is his life going to glorify the Lord? He's a murderer, he's this, he's that, whatever. How? In his destruction. People who do not follow Jesus, they will glorify the Lord in their destruction. Who can raise their hand and tell us some important things that happen while we're spending time in the Word? Anyone can answer. Good. Before we dig in, I'd also like to take a moment to acknowledge our teachers here at North Tampa. We have some very good teachers. Self-excluded. I don't have much experience teaching. I went to college for a short time, but it wasn't Yale. It wasn't exactly Harding University, okay? And what I do for a living today has absolutely nothing to do with what I went to college for. I'm a truck driver. But I'm a driver because I enjoy it. I get to do what I enjoy for a living. That's a blessing. And I've seen the country. It's beautiful. Sometimes it's scary. And I drive locally now, so I get to be home every night. I found myself looking to get back to driving locally about 3 years ago after an unfortunate mishap. And I went to my interview, and I knew I had the job in the bag, but they told me it had a 2 a.m. start time. 2 a.m. So Jamie was at home by herself, teaching our fish how to give her kisses on the side of a fish tank. So I was very worried about her, so I took the job. And it was a very sleepy time for me. I worked 6 days a week, including occasional doubles, and I was rolling north by 2 a.m. to pick up my load in North Florida and come back to Plant City. And it was a sleepy time for other drivers as well, because I saw plenty of accidents in between here and Gainesville going up I-75. And one of them in particular I'll never forget, because the tractor trailer had veered off the interstate. I saw no skid marks. He went up an embankment into the wood line and was fully engulfed in flames when I drove by. And the blue strobes from the squad cars that had just arrived on the scene, and the orange glow in the darkness, and the flames bouncing off the bark of the pine trees, it was an eerie sight, because I knew that driver was burning to death in the cab of his truck that night. So, in order to help me stay awake, I used to turn on the air conditioner full blast, as cold as I could get it. I would put the windows up and down intermittently to let the breeze in and defrost my nose in the cab. And I took my phone and I plugged it into the stereo system. I turned it up good and loud. I opened up my Bible app and pressed play. I started in the book of Genesis. And let me be ready to click this. I listened intently. And this proved to be a very good secondary means of study, because when I heard something that was of particular interest to me, I would tap the screen, choose a color to highlight it, and then I could go back and study it later. One of those subjects came up briefly in one of John's classes on a Sunday morning, and I went home that day to prove to myself, according to the Bible, whether my suspicions on this subject were correct. And that subject is the angel of the Lord. After my study, I concluded that the angel of the Lord in the Old Testament is the Son of God. And apparently, there's some controversy behind this conclusion, because some Bible scholars agree with me and some do not. And nowhere in the Bible does it specifically state that the angel of the Lord in the Old Testament is the Son of God, making this a disputable fact. And that's okay, because I'm not here tonight to convince you guys that my way of thinking is the correct way. But it's a fascinating study. I think you'll agree. The point to all this will come later. Now, I want to take you guys to the first verses that started me thinking along these lines that, hey, something's going on here, and I've never noticed this before. Judges 13, 3 through 22. I don't have these verses on the overhead, so we'll have to look those up. It was quite a stretch, 3 through 22. I have to look this up myself. If someone wants to raise their hand and read this, give me a break. That would be greatly appreciated. John will read it. Thank you, John.
This is about the birth of Samson. The angel of the Lord appeared to her and said, "You are barren and childless, but you are going to become pregnant and give birth to a son. Now see to it that you drink no wine or other fermented drink, and that you do not eat anything unclean. You will become pregnant and have a son, whose head is never to be touched by a razor, because the boy is to be a Nazirite, dedicated to God from the womb. He will take the lead in delivering Israel from the hand of the Philistines." Then the woman went to her husband and told him, "A man of God came to me. He looked like an angel of God, very awesome. I didn't ask him where he came from, and he didn't tell me his name. But he said to me, 'You will become pregnant and have a son. Now then, drink no wine or other fermented drink, and do not eat anything unclean, because the boy will be a Nazirite of God from the womb until the day of his death.' Then Manoah prayed to the Lord, 'Pardon your servant, Lord. I beg you to let the man of God you sent to us come again to teach us how to bring up the boy who is to be born.' God heard Manoah, and the angel of God came again to the woman while she was out in the field, but her husband Manoah was not with her. The woman hurried to tell her husband, 'He's here, the man who appeared to me the other day.' Manoah got up and followed his wife. When he came to the man, he said, 'Are you the man who talked to my wife?' 'I am,' he said. So Manoah asked him, when your words are fulfilled, what is to be the rule that governs the boy's life and work?' The angel of the Lord answered, 'Your wife must do all that I have told her. She must not eat anything that comes from the grapevine, nor drink any wine or other fermented drink, nor eat anything unclean. She must do everything I have commanded her.' Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, 'We would like you to stay until we prepare a young goat for you.' The angel of the Lord replied, 'Even though you detain me, I will not eat any of your food, but if you prepare a burnt offering, offer it to the Lord.' Manoah did not realize that it was the angel of the Lord. Then Manoah inquired of the angel of the Lord, 'What is your name, so that we may honor you when your word comes true?' He replied, 'Why do you ask my name? It is beyond understanding.' Then Manoah took a young goat, together with the grain offering, and sacrificed it on a rock to the Lord. And the Lord did an amazing thing while Manoah and his wife watched. As the flame blazed up from the altar toward heaven, the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame. Seeing this, Manoah and his wife fell with their faces to the ground. When the angel of the Lord did not show himself again to Manoah and his wife, Manoah realized that it was the angel of the Lord. 'We are doomed to die,' he said to his wife. 'We have seen God.'"
Is that interesting or what? Now, someone please point out to us some things in these passages they find to be interesting and why. Did you hear anything at all that you thought was interesting in those passages? Ron.
What comes to my mind is Zacharias, I think was his name, being told that he would have a son. And he sort of hesitated, and the angel who was speaking to him told him that I am Gabriel, who stand in the presence of God. So there are angels that are mighty powerful and insist that you dare not question God's instruction. And that's what came to my mind as he was reading this.
Mm-hmm. He specified that his name was Gabriel.
He did. He said, I am Gabriel who stand in the presence of God. Who do you think who do you think you're arguing with?
Yeah, who are you talking to?
Yeah.
I stand in the presence of God. And that was in the, he was talking to Zechariah,
The father of John the Baptist.
Father John the Baptist. And this is Manoah. One thing that I notice here, was there another hand? Be careful. Oh, Mr. Kent.
This is a little semi-unrelated, but something that was interesting to me is human nature. It reminded me of when Peter and James and John were watching Jesus and Moses, and the first thing that came to Peter's mind is, we'll build you an altar and a tent and something to eat. And Manoah is sitting here saying, oh, well, I need to go kill a goat for you and feed you and give you a grain offering and all that stuff. So, when you're in a spiritual way, sometimes, us humans, we want to do things physical, and we don't realize what's really going on. And I think he didn't even realize that he was quite yet that he came from God until all of a sudden it hit him at the end. I find it interesting how we think we know what to do sometimes, and we need to listen to God and make ourselves more knowledgeable, like you said about studying the Word, so we're prepared when things like this happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can get caught up in the moment. John.
I don't want to take you off your track, so
It's okay.
Okay. So, the whole thing about asking the name was very significant in the Old Testament. And if you're going to get into this, I'll stop.
No.
Okay. So when someone asked you your name, they were trying to learn who you are, what you are. And in that time, many times, the name that you were given as a child was a description of who you would become. And it was the hope of the parents, or whatever it might be. So when they asked the angel of the Lord, what is your name? They were trying to find out, who are you? What are you all about? And he said, it's beyond your understanding. If I told you, you wouldn't be able to make any sense of it anyway. Whereas Gabriel said his name, and Gabriel is a very powerful name, but they could understand that. Mm-hmm. The angel of the Lord said, you wouldn't come close to understanding this.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. And I think some versions, the answer is seeing it is wonderful. There's when he answered, there's a different terminology used. Anyone else? One thing that I noticed, we do have something. Monty.
I've been studying in the book of Judges recently, not this particular passage, but one of the things that occurs to me as I've considered the Old and the New Testament, God uses people to accomplish his will. And sometimes there are people that you kind of wonder, God, are you sure you got the right one here? I'm not suggesting that about Samson, although there were some questions as he did what he did and served the Lord. But it's fascinating to me that God chooses to use people like us to accomplish what he wants done so that his will shall be done among people on earth. And sometimes I've wondered, God, you must be very patient if you're willing to use us people when we are feeble, we don't understand things a lot of times, and we may be a weak tool in your toolkit, but you just see that time and time again, and with God's help, people can accomplish a lot, and he will accomplish his will through people. So we need to be, I guess, diligent. What does God want to use me for today? And then see if we can do that. But another example, he used these people to have a son who was going to carry out things that he needed to do at that point in the history. So just a sidebar, I guess, about God using people.
Yeah, thank you, Monty. It seems to be such a reoccurring theme throughout the Bible that it's almost as if God chose the people to use that he did to prove to us, I can use anybody to accomplish my will. Anybody. Yes.
It also occurred to me that God may use angels who look like people, and we may not recognize them. even today, maybe we have talked to an angel, possibly, and thought it was a person. Like, I remember Lot. I think of Lot and Abraham on the plains as the angel came and talked to him by the tent. And oftentimes people don't recognize that it is an angel. It looks like a person.
I believe there's a scripture for that, isn't it, Ron? Entertaining an angel and not knowing.
Careful what you say, 'cause
Yeah, be careful.
entertaining angels that-
Unaware.
Another comment, and that is Jan.
Yes, it is.
I better not try to remember all the names because I'm going to mess somebody's up.
I just found it fascinating when the angel of the Lord said to Manoah, "Why do you want to know my name? Because it is so wonderful." My mind immediately went to Isaiah. "For unto us a child is born, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor."
Mm-hmm. Well, along those same lines, something that I noticed was when Manoah asked the angel of the Lord, "Are you the man that appeared to my wife?" What was his answer? I am. Do you recognize that from anywhere else in the Bible? John 8:57 and 58, Jesus got in trouble with the Pharisees for using this exact terminology. "You are not yet 50 years old," they said to him, "and you have seen Abraham?" And Jesus answered, "Very truly I tell you," Jesus answered, "before Abraham was, I am." Where else have we heard those two words in an answer to who this person is? Moses and the burning bush. Who was speaking from the burning bush?
God was.
The angel of the Lord. One moment. Let's go there. We'll have to skip forward. It's interesting. Exodus 3:1 through 5. I'll read it to you. Can we get that up there? Exodus 3:1 through 5. Okay, we cannot. "Now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he fled the flock to the far side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in flames of fire from within a bush." I always thought it was God that appeared to him. Let's read on. "In the flames of a burning bush, Moses saw that though the bush was on fire, it did not burn up. So Moses thought, I will go over and see this strange sight, why the bush does not burn up. When the Lord saw that he had gone over to look, God called him from within the bush, 'Moses, Moses.'" Whoa, wait a second. It's getting crowded inside that bush. Because it just said the angel of the Lord was inside the burning bush, and now it says that God said from inside the burning bush. Now I know that God can speak through a burning bush, and he can allow an angel to do it one moment, and then him to speak from inside the burning bush another moment. But here's the idea that I have. This is the same person. The angel of the Lord is, to me, it's a little confusing, the translation, because the angel of the Lord in Hebrew is Masa Malach Yehovah, and that does not mean in any way a created angel of the Lord. Malach actually means messenger, and this same word was used for John the Baptist in the book of Malachi chapter 3, but it's translated as messenger. I think the translators did this because he was a human messenger. It is a prophecy of John the Baptist to come, and the word used for him is malach. What's that?
Angel in the New Testament in Greek is angelion.
Does that also mean messenger? So when I first came across this verse, I was confused because the angels that I remember, the one that I thought of was in Revelations, who said, "Do not worship me," because angels do not accept worship. Now, another thing that I noticed, what is going on with this, the angel of the Lord flying up through the flames and going into heaven and disappearing? Is that not accepting worship? Someone have an explanation? Returning to God? Well, he flew up through the flames. And the way the event took place, Manoah and his wife said, "We're going to die. We have seen the Lord."
Does it say he flew or does it say he ascended?
To me, ascending and flying is somewhat the same thing, but I'm sure it does say ascending. Flying as in flapping your wings in a bird, I probably not, but he ascended through the flames. I mean, you can explain this away as something else, but to me, it appears that in a way, he's accepting worship. But there's other verses that we can look at that you'll find interesting. Let's go back to Genesis 22, 11 through 18. I think I do have slides. No, I do not have slides for all of that. I'll read it. Genesis 22. This is also very interesting. Starting in verse 11. I'll read this one. But the angel of the Lord called out to him from heaven, "Abraham, Abraham." "Here I am," he replied. "Do not lay a hand on the boy," he said. "Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son." Abraham looked up, and there in the thicket saw a ram caught by its horns. He went over and took the ram, sacrificed it as a burnt offering instead of his son. So Abraham called that place, "The Lord will provide." And to this day it is said, "On the mountain of the Lord it will be provided." The angel of the Lord called to Abraham from heaven a second time and said, "I swear by myself, declares the Lord, that because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only son, I will surely bless you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and the sand on the seashore. Your descendants will take possession of the cities of their enemies, and through your offspring all nations of the earth will be blessed, because you have obeyed me." Who did he obey? An angel? It doesn't work that way. The angel of the Lord. What I find interesting about this, but the angel of the Lord called out to him from heaven, "Abraham, Abraham." "Here I am," he replied. "Do not lay a hand on the boy," he said. "Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son." Does angel have this kind of authority? The messenger of the Lord, if that's the Son of God, he does have that authority. Messengers, angels, spiritual messengers, created beings, do not have authority. Ron, you're thinking something.
No, all I was thinking of was the term ambassador that we use today has the full authority of the United States and things that he says, but he says it because somebody else told him to say so.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So I'm not disputing anything you're saying. I'm just trying to add to it a little bit. But I can't help but remember the answer that God gave Moses when he hesitated going to see Pharaoh. And we've talked about this before. He says, "What am I going to say when he asks who sent me?" He said, "Tell him that I am sent you."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He was talking apparently to God himself there. And all the power and the surrounding events that occurred while Moses was on the mountain receiving the tables of stone and so forth. He came down, his face was glowing so bright that he couldn't be looked upon. That was the influence of God himself, I'm pretty sure.
And wasn't that influence from God himself as, was this the occasion where Moses wanted to see God in all of his glory? And God said, if you see me in all of my glory, you will die. So he had him to hide in the cleft of a rock, and he put his hand over the cleft, and he passed over. So Moses' face shining bright was just from the basic reflection. He didn't even look at him straight on and get that kind of sunburn. He was down in the rock. Any further comments on this? Okay. There's something in Judges 2, 1 through 4 also. Judges 2, 1 through 4. Next time I'll have to do a better job of getting my slides set up for the overhead. The angel of the Lord went up from Gilgal to Bochim and said, I brought you up out of Egypt and led you into the land I swore to give your ancestors. I said, I will never break my covenant with you, and you shall not make a covenant with the people of this land, but you shall break down their altars, yet you have disobeyed me. Why have you done this? And I have also said, I will not drive them out before you. They will become traps for you, and their gods will become snares to you. When the angel of the Lord had spoken these things to all the Israelites, the people wept aloud. Again, the angel of the Lord, or the messenger of the Lord, to probably be more accurate, is showing godlike authority in this occasion. It's undisputable. Judges 6, 20 through 24. I believe this is where John Wharton was at the Sunday morning, and it got me to thinking. I went home that Sunday, I said, I got to start checking this out, because this is really interesting. Judges 6, 20 through 24. The angel of God said to him, take the meat and the unleavened bread, place them on this rock, and pour out the broth. And Gideon did so. Then the angel of the Lord touched the meat and the unleavened bread with the tip of the staff that was in his hand. Fire flared from the rock, consuming the meat and the bread, and the angel of the Lord disappeared. When Gideon realized that it was the angel of the Lord, he exclaimed, Alas, sovereign Lord, I have seen the angel of the Lord face to face. But the Lord said to him, Peace, do not be afraid. You are not going to die. So Gideon built an altar to the Lord there and called it The Lord is Peace. To this day it stands in Ophrah of the Abiezrites. How's that? Second Samuel 24:16. If you want to go there. 2 Samuel 24, verse 16. Now this one, it states he is the angel of the Lord, but I'm not 100% convinced that this is who I suspect it to be because of basically what's going on, and there is no characteristics shown from this person that are godlike. So I'm really not convinced about it, but it's here because it says the angel of the Lord, but I don't think that's who this is about. When the angel stretched out his hand to destroy Jerusalem, the Lord relented concerning this disaster and said to the angel who was afflicting the people, Enough, withdraw your hand. The angel of the Lord was then at the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite. A lot of death went on that day surrounding that angel. And Numbers 22, 21 through 35. You have a comment. John.
Yeah, just a quick comment on that. We don't like the concept of the angel of the Lord causing death. And that scene that you just spoke of is where 70,000 Israelites died because
70,000.
of the disobedience. Who's going to judge us at the end of time? Who's going to send the ones on the left to destruction forever and ever? Jesus. Jesus is going to be the one to judge us, and there will be a lot more people die in that judgment call. So, the righteous death of people is part of his job. It's not a fun part of the job, but it is something that we got a glimpse of there with David's sin.
Right. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. Christ's enemies will be made his footstool. And the purpose of all things forever is to glorify the Lord. And all things will glorify the Lord. My life, your life, everybody's life will glorify the Lord. Even people who are living in ways that you could ask, well, how in the world is his life going to glorify the Lord? He's a murderer, he's this, he's that, whatever. How? In his destruction. People who do not follow Jesus, they will glorify the Lord in their destruction, eternal destruction.
When Abraham was met on the plains of Mamre by 3 individuals, 2 went forward to do the job on Sodom and Gomorrah. 1 stayed and debated with Abraham, I think, if I recall it correctly, about if there's this many found righteous, will you save them, blah, blah, blah. And they got all the way down to 10, I think, and didn't work. There wasn't that many righteous people in either place. And they had a terrific loss of people in a bad way from the way it's described. And that third angel, that third person that was discussing things with Abraham has always been a mystery to me, just as a couple other people. Go ahead.
Was that a successfully bargaining on that occasion? Did he successfully bargain with the Lord and get the Lord to change his mind and come all the way down to what if I find 10?
God said he would, or the angel, whomever he was talking to, said he would if he could find 10, I think, at the very end, and he couldn't find that many.
And
there was some bargaining, I suppose you can say, but the evidence was that there wasn't that many people that was worth saving.
So then he got God to change his mind on that.
No, he didn't change his mind.
Okay, well, that's an interesting idea, though, right?
It's human nature to try to debate your way out of a situation sometimes.
But it did start at a higher number and went down from there.
Richard's had his hand up for a moment, but just
Okay.
really quickly, it's people pleading to God have changed God's mind throughout the Bible. Moses, he was going to destroy the world, and Moses talked him out of going and starting over again. So there have been the pleas from righteous people that have got God to say, well, maybe so.
I don't forget what I'm going to say, man. Go ahead, Richard.
Well, I was going to make a comment about the same episode that Ron was referring to, the Sodom and Gomorrah, when it says the 2 men came to Lot and spoke to him, and they talked about the fact, we're talking about whether they had the power of God or the authority from God, and they said in Genesis 19, now I've lost the verse. Verse 12 and 13. Then the men said to Lot, have you anyone else here, son-in-law, your sons, your daughters, and whomever you have in the city? Take them out of this place, for we will destroy this place, because the outcry against them has grown great before the face of the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it.
Mm-hmm.
So they were acting with full authority of God.
I think that these verses suggest to me, just a second, that our relationship with God goes quite a bit deeper than some people may imagine. I mean, is God a changing God? No. Can you change his mind on something? Apparently. Jan.
Back to Mamre. It's interesting that, yes, 3 men did appear, but at the beginning of chapter 18, it says, and the Lord appeared to him by the oaks. And the Lord, in the English translations, L-O-R-D is all capitalized. And that is usually a mechanism that is reserved for the Lord God. And so whenever the conversations take place, even after the 2 men had already left, later in chapter 18, he says, shall I withhold from you what I'm about to do? And then Abraham said at the end, after he had been negotiating, he said, oh, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak once again about this. And then he got down to the 10, and he said, and the Lord went his way. So this is, I'm in complete agreement with you that in this occasion and in many of the other places where it talks about the angel of the Lord, because the men that he dealt with or the people that he dealt with were able to see his face, and the whole triune God, the whole Trinity is a concept that just makes my mind go in circles. But I believe we're having examples of God the Son in pre-incarnate, in other words, before his birth, appearances to men, like he did in Daniel, where it said, and the appearance of the fourth is like that of the Son of Man.
Daniel chapter 3. Right. Yeah. Nebuchadnezzar had thrown Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into a fiery furnace, and he looked down in there and saw 4 figures. And he said, didn't I throw 3 down in there? And they said, of course you did. And he said then, but I see 4 figures, and the 4th appearing as a son of the gods. Very interesting choice of words by Nebuchadnezzar, a son of the gods. Is this another appearance of the angel of the Lord? I think so, but it doesn't say.
Are you planning on explaining who Melchizedek is to us tonight?
Melchizedek, now see, you're trying to mess me up, Ron. Melchizedek was a priest, and he was not through the lineage of Aaron, correct? And it, yeah, seemed like he kind of came out of nowhere. And so he was a priest based on his, not on credentials, but even, that's an interesting subject. And in even, who was it? Was it Abraham that paid tithes to him? Yeah, nice. John, yes.
I appreciate very much the class and all of the studying that you've done, and I'm drawn back about 4 months ago where we did a study on the names of God. And one of the study notes we talked about was the complex portrayal of the angel of the Lord. And I just think it's very appropriate to say, so what? What are we getting to? And the bottom line is where you started from tonight, and that is that the character and the identity, this is Yahweh God. And that's Yahweh, meaning that the character and identity of this complex unit, right? As Jan said, the Trinity. Above all, what it's showing is it's unified. And the power that we see in the angel of the Lord is brought to a culmination through the person of Jesus Christ.
Good. I don't feel so dumb now. I was not here for that study. So thank you for that. So, but actually, what was the beginning of the study tonight? What are some very important things that happen while we're spending time in the Word? Well, this is something that happened for me. I found something that I didn't know was there, something with great impact in my spiritual life. To know that, or to think that, if I'm wrong, which I don't believe so, that the one who later came to save us was so involved with mankind and certain situations face to face in some kind of visible form, that he had so much to do with mankind and God's people before he ever came. That's significant to me. And you can study the Bible for 50, 60, 70 years and still find things that you didn't know was there. The Bible it's the living word. It's alive, active, and sharper than any two-edged sword. So, therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your minds. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is. Now, can I show up on Sundays and hear the Word and hear Neil preach and get everything that I'm supposed to get out of this Bible if I never pick it up throughout the week? No. Can I place this underneath my pillow and through osmosis get the information that I need? No. Can I beat it over somebody's head and hope that it gets through their thick skull? No. My mama tried. See these little... So, spending time in the Word, we can always find things that we didn't know was there. It's the living Word, not because God changes or this Word changes, but we do. Hopefully we're growing in the Word. Number 2, spending time in the Word brings about supernatural change within us. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the Word of God. John 15, 5 through 7. I am the vine, this is Jesus, I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me, and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. If you do not remain in me, you are like a branch that is thrown away and withers. Such branches are picked up, thrown into the fire, and burned. What does he mean, remain in me? If you remain in me, verse 7, and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. The power is in the Word. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God. He is God. The Word is God. We call this the Word. Jesus is the Word. Coincidence? I don't think so. So if we keep these words fresh in our minds and in our hearts, we'll have the power to beat Satan. If we don't, and we won't. Number 3, all relationships require something. What is it? Does anybody know? Without it, there's no relationship. Love. You got it. Communication. God has always desired to have a relationship with us. It did not begin when Jesus came. We were created to have a relationship with God. God has communicated to us through prayer, us being alive today. Through the Word. And we communicate to Him through prayer. This being said, one surefire way to strengthen our relationship with God is to spend more time in the Word and more time in prayer. I heard something yesterday, and I jotted it down because I knew this was from the Holy Spirit. It wasn't by chance I heard this. And sometimes catchy phrases can stick with you. It said, we should seek to increase our faith by increasing our exposure to the Word. Do you agree with that? And then also, completely out of context, someone else said, when we get distracted, evil takes root. So we need to put the good stuff in and keep the bad stuff out. I appreciate you guys being here tonight. Are there any further comments? Thank you. First timer. Here's one last thing that is interesting I wanted to leave you with. Do you know how many more times the angel of the Lord is mentioned after Jesus is born in the Bible? 0. It's very interesting.